Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to Let's Do Some Game Dev here with Drixie.
Hey guys.
And we're going to be doing some greyboxing of the dungeon. I'll explain what that is in a second. And then in the background, picture-in-picture mode, or sometimes we might actually just switch to have Drixie be full screen. Drixie's working on rebuilding the ward model that we've been working on to make it more generic.
You might have seen all the many attempts in the recent short. This is our ward in all of his junky glory. I'm going to be making a basic model, same size.
Try and keep all the
bodies.
dimensions and proportions the same, but a little bit more generic.
Yeah, that way we can use this model for many characters, not just this one. We can throw some clothes, throw some armor on them, just a basic model.
Yeah.
I got my references popping up.
Essentially trying to recreate this character I have walking around in game in 3D, and then if you haven't seen the short, we did a short earlier today showing how we convert that from 3D to 2D. Well, maybe not showing because we don't really explain it, but kind of showing the end result, which I don't know, I don't think we'll show today, but we can go into more detail on that at a later time. So that's basically what we're doing. I'm going to jump into it. So here I want to talk a little bit about where we're at with the dungeon. So last time we streamed was like 6 months ago, and we were working on battle improvements. So we're getting into combat and kind of making the combat stuff just cleaner and better. That went fairly well. I think there's still a lot more cleanup to be done in the combat system, but I really wanted to take a crack at the dungeon setup. So let's take a quick look at what we had before. Just for context. Go back to Sewer Dungeon A. I think this one might be working. Nope, that one's not working. Is it because I have this camera? If I turn this camera off, does it work? Nope. Well, I'll show in scene at the very least. So in getting things hooked up in the new dungeon format, this old dungeon format has broken. But essentially we had this set up. If I go out of 2D mode into 3D mode, you can see we had a series of 2D images, essentially a bunch of different individual wall pieces that we layer one on top of each other, that when we hit 2D creates this thing that looks, like a three-dimensional dungeon, even though in reality it's a bunch of 2D images. This is useful in a lot of ways, but it's also a giant pain. So if we go into 2D view, we can see that there's spots where textures aren't overlapping correctly in certain spots. As well as if you get the positioning of the character slightly off, sometimes the character will show in front of a wall instead of behind a wall. There's just a lot of difficulties when it comes to placing textures in the world. I was also finding I want to do elevation, so I want to have ramps that take you up to higher levels. When you start doing elevation changes on 2D tile maps like this, you can get into a lot of difficulty, because as you can see, there's a series of different layers. It can be very hard to tell where you are in any of those layers. So after probably, I want to say 6 months to a year of working in this tile map and trying to perfect this and get it working, I've decided that I want to leave it alone. And instead we're going to move into a 3D environment. So if we go back to where we started the stream, don't need to save that. Exit 2D mode. We can see that right now we have a three-dimensional world. I can move around this. It is a cube. Right now it is one massive model that I built in Blender and then brought over into Unity with a proper UVing and texture mapping. Not ideal, but it tested, can we do what I want to do, which is that if we hit play, we'll notice that this 3D environment doesn't look 3D. It looks 2D. It looks flat. And so what I want to do is I want to create 3D environments that can have elevation changes, can have the character stepping behind stuff, can have all of that without having to worry about 2D image sorting layer nonsense. Instead, it's just a 3D environment and we just render that out. As for the character, I would like to keep the character as a 2D sprite, so we've just got him slightly tilted. Ideally, I'd like to do some more research on how to do this without billboarding, which is what this is called when you face the character basically towards the camera. The camera's up over there somewhere in the distance. And so there's other ways of doing this, and he's a little squashed on some of his pixels in some weird ways because of the way we're doing this, so gonna want to try some other things. Also, beauty of going to 3D is I've also upgraded to Unity's universal render pipeline, which has given me the ability to have lighting on our sprites as well as on our environments, which is pretty nifty and cool. Now, I said that the environment being one giant model isn't ideal. It has a bunch of performance problems, basically. So if we go into game and we look at statistics, we have a lot of triangles and vertices on screen, even though we're not really seeing all of them because it's one model. Unity's rendering basically the entire geometry. If we turn off the mesh and turn on the mesh collider, which is these green lines, we can see this environment is actually made of, if I don't get too close, a lot of triangles. And so not what I want. I want to try and find a better way of doing this, and I want to try and do a way that's a little bit more flexible, that we don't have to build the entire world in 3D in Blender. So for the sake of prototyping and trying to figure out like what kind of I don't even know if I like the height of these walls. Like if we look at how tall they are in comparison to Ward, he feels a little tiny. So like there's just some scale things that we need to figure out. And one way to do that is with a package from Unity called Pro Builder, which I have not played with a lot, and I installed just before the stream started. So we're going to be... like, I've played with it a little bit on other projects that I've worked on professionally, but still not a lot of experience. So this will be my first time using it in this project. It essentially allows us to build geometry inside of Unity without having to use another program like Blender. And it's not really what you want to do for final art, but again, it can be useful for this kind of greyboxing kind of prototyping stage. Okay, so where are the Pro Builder samples? In here. Got some procedural meshes, some editors. There isn't any just like base, like scenes. Huh. Pro Builder window. Okay, so this gives me a window that allows me to create objects. So let's play with that. Let's, for the time being, turn off our environment, and let's try creating a new shape. Okay, so that generated a cube. Okay, I see we have a shape tool that we can decide what we want. Sprite, prism, stairs. Okay. For our purposes, I think I just want to be building some dungeon environments, so we probably just want floors and walls. We can start with a 1x1 cube and see how that feels. Where is this in the world? Let's zero out its position. Its pivot is on the left. We can kind of see from, if we go to overhead, this might be easier to tell, and then get rid of perspective. Yeah, so this cube is actually not a full Unity like unit, essentially. Can I grab these points and then just... it's not going to work the way I want it to. So this is saying the cube is 1 meter, and it has like a texture that's like allowing us to see that fairly easily. Interesting. So then is my Unity grid settings not set to be 1 meter by 1 meter? Huh. Okay. I think that's probably fine. I know that there is another window I'm missing. Um, when I look at other people's version of Pro Builder, we do not have... We're supposed to have some snapping settings, which I don't see. Okay. Can we choose this edge and set this edge to be the pivot? We can, okay. But we want snapping, so I need to figure out how to turn on the Pro Builder snapping menu. Editor. These are all like things for manipulating the actual objects. Dimension overlay. Oh, that's neat. That's showing me like how big each part of the cube is. Not what I'm looking for though. This is most of what this stream is going to be. Is going to be kind of working out how Pro Builder works in order to try and prototype some dungeon experiences.
And I'm still very new to Blender, so a lot of it's going to be like, as you may have just witnessed, I had to go back and clip all of my mirroring because I did it like 5 steps too late. So it's going to be kind of funny. We're both learning.
Yeah. Constant learning.
I've only been on Blender no more than 6 months now.
I would say probably 4 months. 4 months that we've been playing around with 3D, trying to get 3D working in a way that can like hopefully benefit us and save time in the long run.
Very green.
Everyone starts that way, that's for sure.
It's definitely been enjoyable.
And there's a lot of really valuable tutorials on YouTube. This video is not necessarily one of those.
No, this is not a tutorial. This is probably what not to do. But we try our best.
This is the window. How do I turn on Pro Builders? UI. It's because I'm missing a piece. There's something called Pro Grid, which looks like it doesn't exist anymore. And that's the thing I'm used to. I see. There's a piece of this that I missed. I need to figure out how to access preview packages. Ah, ProGrids is in preview mode. Okay. This is what I want though, so we're going to install this as well. Because this will allow us to have like the snapping to the environments that I want. I see Trinity Hearts in chat. Hello. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, Trinity.
Okay, so that should have added ProGrids. ProGrids window. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So now I can... So now we have 2 grids over top. So if we turn off the base Unity one, now we have this, and we can turn on snapping. Toggle snapping on. Aha! Now we're playing with fire. Okay, so now we can have a grid space in which we can lay out some cubes. So our floors probably don't need to be 1 meter tall.
Oh.
So let's create a new shape and let's make it a cube. But instead of making it 1 meter, let's make it 0.1. And we'll still make it 1 by 1. Actually, do we want to make it 1 by 1? Because it's a chunk of floor, we could do chunks of floor in bigger sizes. So we could do like 10 by 10. Build that. Okay, and then we can call this a floor piece. Cool. And now with a floor piece, we're going to want to have this snap not to the bottom pivot, but we're going to want to snap it to one of the top pivots. We're going to set it here to start. Okay. And then we'll set it to 0, 0, 0. Cool. And if we
why are you so pokey?
Control D to duplicate. Now we have some floor spaces. Now this little red dot here represents where we spawn the character. So let's bring that over to be over top of this floor. Okay, and we'll leave it up in the sky. Better to have it fall down onto the floor. Cool. And that actually doesn't look that bad in our kind of like pixelization world either. In fact, an isometric 1 by 1 cube is looking pretty close to perfect.
I'm actually really happy with my dude so far. Very, very simple. But like, he's got no arms, but he's looking like he's got some shape.
He's matching the ward one that you had built before pretty close. Okay.
Look how big their feetsies are and how big their heads. They're very chibi characters.
They are, but that's because like you don't recognize it in the sprite form, but like they tend to be
They're quite chunky.
Yeah.
And their feet are abnormally spread to get their giant boots apart, so you have those really nice crisp walking animations.
Yeah.
So definitely not to scale. Not a human.
I'm excited to like I love this version of Ward that we've created, but I'm excited to see how it changes when we actually get like an actual animated walk cycle, like in Blender carried over.
Same. I'm very, very excited to see this. Is this where the shoulder would be?
Because like this version, like his shoulder doesn't move as much. Like there's certain pixels that are very static on him, and that's because he's hand built. I'm interested to see if we get a little bit more motion when we kind of create a 3D to 2D walk cycle. Anyways, so next up, also if I hold left and right, that's why I'm like sliding super bad. I need to fix the controller. When I switched from 2D to 3D, I rewrote the character movement system, but it's still not perfect. So, okay. Next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to check and see how tall we want our environments to be. So let's add some cubes, and we'll build wall pieces after, but for now we'll start by just adding some cubes and see how high we want to go. So I think I want to change the pivot point on this cube. Let's also get organized a little bit. Let's create a new empty object and call it floor. Floor will be at 0, 0, 0, so that we don't get any weird like transforms, and we're going to add all the floor pieces to the floor. Okay, now let's play with this cube and make some walls. I want to change the pivot point to be on this side, I think. And then if we go back to object mode, Yeah, that feels right. We probably won't want walls this thick, or maybe we do. Um, I have a question for Google, which is Unity drag duplicate.
I wonder if I should merge these. Probably. We want chunky to make the best pixel. So, you know, before I do that much, I'm gonna save. Just in case I don't like it. That's fine.
Interesting. Okay, I can't find what I was looking for, which is I was curious if there's a way to like create an object by holding one of the like keys, but it looks like you have to hit Control D and then move, Control D and then move, which is fine. Otter Jake in the YouTube chat saying hello. Hello to you as well.
Hello, Otter Jake.
Okay, so this is some like cubes, which could represent a wall. Let's see if we grab all of these, and then let's grab two at the same time. I'm gonna just start with assuming that we want walls to be too high, but that
Hey.
might be a bad assumption.
Where'd my faces go? This happens to me a lot. I thought I had collected everything, but now I'm missing some points.
Did you delete some stuff?
No, I probably just didn't select both points at the same time, but I've remember now how to add, so as long as I do it carefully, it shouldn't be a problem.
Just fill it in.
Yeah, little mistakes. These are the things you learn from. As long as you catch them early enough, they don't cause migraines.
2 cubes might be the right height here. Let's switch back to my scene now that we're kind of getting to something that looks like something. Turn off the stats for now. I imagine this won't be that performant, but
I feel like I should get the application that shows me which hotkey I'm using. How did I get the hands before?
oh, like so that when you're pressing stuff, it like highlights on the screen somewhere showing what you're pressing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could. I don't like the way that like I can push into a wall and then when I release the camera shifts back a little bit. Not a big deal. It's a little weird. Anyways, too high feels about right because we can still see the top of the character's head. If we go into the scene and we actually grab like say this entire row and then just duplicate and drag up. Oh, is the snapping not on when we're playing? Interesting. That's roughly correct though. Yeah, we lose the character if we go to a height of 3. So we probably want our walls to be 2 meters high. Let's take this and duplicate it up exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, we kind of completely lose the character. All right. So probably 2. Would 2.5 be worthy of checking? Create new shape. 1 by 1. Height 2.5. Build. And then take that cube. Go 0, 0. You get a little bit at the top of the head. That's kind of interesting. So I could see somewhere in the range of 2.5. I don't think we want to do 1.5, but we won't know unless we try. This is what prototyping is about, is just building little things and just trying to answer questions that I as a designer have. And to be clear, the question we're trying to answer here is a pretty straightforward one in that... Oh, did I mess that up somehow? I think I did. Let's try that again. Build. There we go. The question we're trying to answer here is really just like, what does our environment look like, right? Like, how big is a wall? How big is the floors? How zoomed out are we? Is this something I'm going to be exploring here in a second? But it's just like trying to figure out these pretty straightforward things, but sometimes the only way to do it is to actually just get in here and build. Just play with things, essentially. Almost like you could imagine playing with toys, just trying to get a feel for something and be like, is this what I want?
Is this what I'm going to put on my Christmas list?
Is this what I'm going to put on my Christmas list? Because this is the whole thing, right? So let's see here. So this is 1.5, 2, and 2.5 high walls. So we can take a look here. So that feels too short, 1.5. 2 still feels about right. Like being able to see the eyes feels really correct to me. I don't know how I would better put that. Okay. We could also play with like, we don't have to have a hard and fast rule that says like our walls are exactly this height. So we could try doing like different heights for different situations as well.
Gives me more flexibility as the artist.
It does. Okay. Like I could see this being like a fence or something potentially. Whereas this is like a wall and this is like something really high. Okay. So let's play with the... Let's destroy all these cubes that we just made. Maybe not all, most. This one, 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 this one. Just trying to clean things up a little bit. Okay. Next thing I want to play with here is what happens if we have like areas where we have space below. Can you see the character's feet like this? How does this work? What does this look like? Oh, interesting. The character can like go under that. The camera is freaking out a little bit. So that means that the character's height is probably slightly too tall. The collider for this is in some weird dimensions. Oh, the character is actually a fair amount off the ground, which you can't tell from the overhead, but that's not really what we want.
Where did you come from? Oh yeah. You don't belong there.
We got to be careful about adjusting this height, because if you can see here, the character's head is going outside the collider now, and we don't want to ever have it so that the character's sprite can clip into the walls. It kind of breaks the illusion if that happens. But 0.5 looks to be working okay, and we can walk under something. Oh, I actually really like the way that's looking. Okay. Now, can we see his feet here? We can't. Okay. We can here, though.
So why are you there?
Interesting. Whoa. Okay. That broke a little bit, and the character flew into the sky. It's probably because his collider is round enough and small enough that we can fit into that gap a little too much, and causes the physics to break a little bit, would be my guess.
I made a mistake and now it's a thumb, so it's okay.
Those are the best.
I wasn't going to do thumbs. Oh, is it even attached? It is. Maybe. Oh no. No, now the chaos begins.
It's a little warped.
Yeah, but the point is there. What am I?
Oh, there's a vertex in the top middle, like underneath.
Yeah, and I can't get rid of it or else it breaks everything. That's where my thumb was gonna go, but it's making everything a little warbly.
You could just delete everything and rebuild the face.
Yeah, I think that is the best bet. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, so I think we like too high. Too high allows us to have areas that we can walk under, which is kind of cool as well. I definitely want to have
I
like
that, Solhi.
yeah, right? And also like this Pro Builder cube like looks really solid in general. Like there's a little bit of funkiness with the collision, but like the way this looks is actually pretty
It's pretty
solid.
clean.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's start grayboxing in some environments with these cubes then. I think I'm fine with just doing the 1 by 1 by 2. I guess technically if we're using Unity dimensions, it's a 1x, 2y, 1z. And so this piece is essentially a pillar. I guess one thing I hadn't considered when we were playing is that this is technically the 2.5 version. If we just replace that...
Oh my.
with another cube. So let's hide that one for a second. Drag that over. Drag that over and drag that over. Does that look about the same? Do we need to have that 1.5 version or 2.5 version? Not really. Okay. I'm gonna try not to use half sizes for now. We will keep it in the back pocket as something that we can do if we need to, but we're gonna try and avoid the half sizes.
That sounds like a good idea.
And then if that's the case, let's make some wall sections. There was another cube, yeah, hidden under the world. I saw that from the render. And then we're also going to manipulate the player prefab, which is the 3D player controller. Yeah. We're going to open this prefab and we're going to just adjust the height of its collider. Let's just go to 0.6. That should hopefully give us just enough height to get underneath any kind of walkway areas that we need. And then Pro Builder, create shape. We're going to make a wall. So it's going to be too high is what we've determined. And then let's do 3 long. Just debating how many of these I want to be duplicating at a time. Because, like, the longer we make this, the easier it is for me to, like, make a series of them. I could just do individual ones. Pivot. Start by trying to build with 2x2s. Okay. So how much of this floor do we see on screen at any given time? Each of these floors are 10 by 10 meters. If we're standing basically in the center of this, we essentially see almost all of it, if not more. So our screen space, like how much dungeon we will see on screen at a given moment, is about a 20 by 20 square. It's going to be more than that, obviously, but we could assume that it's about that. That's actually pretty big. Manipulating the zoom out factor, though, of like how zoomed we are, is actually pretty difficult because of the way that I've set up some of the orthographic camera systems. Everything's pretty dependent on this orthographic size, which has a lot to do with like cosines and sines and angles of the camera from the character and stuff. But if we change this, it's on the player character technically. This is where the virtual camera is. But if we change this, we do zoom in and out. We can see that like we lose the pixelization of the cubes when we're at specifically this size here. A pixel of one of these cubes should be about the same pixel density or size as the character. It's kind of hard to see because the texture on these things is pretty basic. It's just a light gray. But here you can see that like the top of this cube is basically 2 gray cubes, and you can see the bottom of his chin cheek area here is one pixel, and so like this thing you could think of as being subdivided. So this exact spot where we're at in terms of like the zoom factor is like perfect to have the character's pixel size match up pretty close to exactly with the size of this cube's pixels. Yeah, almost exactly. Or it should be exactly if I've done all the math correctly. But Unity also really doesn't want to do this pixel stuff, and it feels a little bit like pulling teeth sometimes, because it doesn't want to be this precise, and I want it to be very precise. Okay, cool. So I think we're stuck with this level of zoom out. And we're also stuck with this character movement speed. So we can manipulate the character's movement speed. So if we make it like 7, for example, to slow him down, well, notice that the world starts to look really like kind of jerky. Like the world seems to move in like almost like step patterns and spots. That has to do with like the way the pixels are snapping in between. So if we change this to like 16, because it's a round number of 8, like, or a multiple of 8, that should be pretty smooth with how we move, but this is also probably faster than what we want. If we go to 12, still feels a little bit off to me in comparison. Yeah, 8 still feels the smoothest. So okay, so we're going to be building with the constraints I've already created. They're even in this kind of like debug world, they kind of still matter. So we have to have a movement speed of 8, and we have to have essentially a zoom out factor. It's not really what it is, but we can think about it that way, with an orthographic size of 7.954954. Okay, so then if we are doing that, how big is a hallway? If we are creating a hallway for the character to walk down, that's going to be with a series of these wall pieces. Let's start in the middle. Rotate. Can we turn on rotation snapping? What do these other things do? Render a 3D grid in perspective. Don't think that's what I want. Oh, that's just a tab opener and closer. We're snapping by 1 cube at a time, or 1 meter at a time. And these are all the other things that I think we want on. I don't really need the grid on, but it's still not fixing the rotation. So if we have this cube, we don't really have the ability to rotate it, so we should probably make a different... I mean, we can, but it might just be easier just to do this.
Oops.
And just build another cube piece. Can I put this down here? I can. That's cool. Interesting. Can I just use this preview piece as a way of building? I can. That might be easier than the duplication that I'm trying to do. Okay, so if that's the case, let's try this. So then let's say we build a section of wall, and instead of doing it as an individual piece, if we look at our existing, let's just turn on our environment for the time being. It's very big in comparison. We can see that the model that we had been testing with, we mostly just fill in. We don't actually have like the behind the wall. It's mostly just darkness. So I think we can do the same thing with our prototyping. And we can just do, let's pull this back here. And then this is 6 on the X, like that. And then we can just bloop, plop that down. Then we can do, say, a corridor of 4 across. And let's just do a quick T with everything having the same dimensions and see how that feels to move through. Make sure everything's aligned. Cool. What does that feel like? Oh, that's cool. The preview block is still here, even though I can't go into it. Is there a way to, like, hide that? I guess the easiest way would be to just pull it off screen for now. Cool. So now we have some sections that we can walk through. We are losing a little bit of the definition between where the floor and the ceiling is, and that'll come with some texturing. Interesting. Oh, I was just noticing that his eyes were no longer showing over the top of the walls, and that's because we tweaked his collider, so he's actually sitting a bit lower to the ground now. Everything matters all the time.
Alright, let's check out my first render.
Oh. Just using some simple colors to break up the body parts?
Yeah, so I can see there's troubleshoot areas.
Oh, okay.
Got definition in the feet. That's really good. Legs look a good width. Got lots of nice shadow bit there. Torso seems a little short, and arms seem a little too wide, but the head kind of looks at about right perspective.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. I would say that bringing it in and taking a look at it next to the versions that you've been working on with the Ward model before is probably the right choice.
In Asprite?
Yeah, in A-Sprite, bringing it across and just kind of comparing. It should be nearly identical because it should be the same proportions.
It should be. I definitely tried, but I also made a few...
Adjustments?
Yeah, a little bit of adjustments, mostly because it's very hard not drawing, like, I'm drawing a human in my head, so I was like, this should be a little thinner. Kind of just, it's working around the edges. But
okay.
Let's see how this is.
Yeah, I think there is a general kind of, like, confusion between, like, I don't know, making it so that it looks proportionally correct for what you would picture versus, like, this kind of almost, like, chibi sprite character. They're not, it may not be correct from a human standpoint. Okay, so I was looking at, because I adjusted the height of this collider, he's kind of floating off the ground, and so we fixed that a little bit by bringing him down, but that means that he actually ends up hiding a little bit more. I don't think that's the end of the world, though.
Oh.
Oh, it's like the same color?
Yeah, that's not a big deal. That
Yeah,
should
you
be
might
like
want to
that.
just tweak that for the next render, though.
I'm not gonna use black for the head. I thought I got some really good shadows out of it. I was like, I need something that really shows it off, right?
Just realized I can do that to show better. I can probably do the same thing with console, too. Chat doesn't need to see those things. There we go. That should be easier for people to see what I'm doing in these sections. Cool.
If anybody missed it, here's my 23, 24 attempts of making this character.
Trying to get it to match the existing OG Ward.
Yeah, this was my first one. He was very short and had no feet and no hair, and I thought it was going to be perfect, and it did not work out. And he got a little taller, he grew some hair, he grew a cape, and eventually, this is the latest one. The colors have been kind of fixed. He's not going to be perfect, but I think actually he's really grown into his own little person. I'm really proud. So I'm going to steal... Should I compare to the most recent render and OG, or just the OG?
I think both. I think bring it in versus both.
Copy and paste is a girl's best friend. Why do I feel like it's just Clone Wars? So the arm needs more of an angle. It's a little smaller.
And now the tweaking begins.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it begins. I'm gonna pop this up on the other side.
Okay, so this is working for the most part. I've built an environment that I'm kind of grayboxing out. I guess the next thing is actually trying to, like, what am I trying to achieve? So, So I think we want to be level designing. Well, I mean, that's the whole point, but I think I should be trying to think about, like, what is it I'm trying to achieve? So we've been playing Final Fantasy IV Anthology for the PS1, which we might do some videos on that, maybe in a kind of a different tone or a different kind of design standpoint.
It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
My first time.
Yeah, it's first time playing, but I guess watching technically because I'm doing the playing. But regardless, we've been kind of looking at it and trying to figure out, like, what does it do and how does it do it from, like, some of even the simple standpoints of, like, it's like level design. And one thing I had noted is that oftentimes when you're playing through that, there isn't a lot to do in their dungeons because it's, Final Fantasy IV is a bit of an older title, and for the most part, it's mostly walk forward, but it's a little more complicated than that. I feel like there's still some decisions being made about where do I go. Oftentimes I feel like when you first enter into an area, there's like two different directions that you can choose from. And based off of the visual, like, zoom out of the game, you can't really tell which of the two directions is the correct direction. Which one's going to take you forward in the dungeon and which one's going to have, like, potentially a secret. And based off our zoom out factor right now, I feel like that's a difficult thing to achieve with our current prototyping. So if we were to assume that we start in the bottom half of this dungeon area, and let's say that we are here Let's duplicate some of these. In fact, let's just grab all 4. Maybe I should have made these things 20 by 20, but learn as you go. So let's make our play space bigger so that we can actually have some space that is actually off camera. So if we start here, we have 2 directions that we can walk in. We can either go left or we can go right. Yeah, I mean, it's ISO, so it's not really left and right, but it's kind of. And the nice thing about Final Fantasy IV is oftentimes when you go the wrong way, aka the correct way, it usually still tells you that you missed something. So there's a really, like in the Cave of Mist early on, there's a spot where when you walk down and to the right, it reveals something up in the top right that you couldn't see before. How do we do something like that here?
For being so zoomed out, is that going to be our camera area?
This is it. This is what I was talking about a moment ago. If we try and...
First time I looked over, I apologize.
No, it's fine. But we can't really play with the zoom level because it changes the pixels. You can see here we're no longer in the pixel density.
Oh, please don't break my pixels. I've worked hard on those.
Yeah, so we want this to be the pixel of a character to match the pixel of the wall. And like we could still play with like the size of the character because technically the character is like a sprite, and we could scale this to be a different size, but it gets fairly complicated to try and figure out those numbers.
Of that area, because one thing about Final Fantasy, I almost get claustrophobic with how tight the map is.
Yeah.
So we can still do little hideaways, but it's just going to be at a larger scale.
Okay, right? Let me just try some things here, and I'll show why that's going to be a problem.
Uh-oh. I don't like problems.
Me either.
Are you too human looking? Like, what if I did like... No, that's supposed to not... No. Can I rotate?
Okay, let's give this a try.
I don't know how I feel about that, but he's got a little bit of rotated arms now.
That is not going to create the effect I want. So we got to move this over here so that we start in the bottom left more so. Okay. And then we also need to duplicate this. And we need to duplicate this. Nope, can't duplicate that. Okay, we got to grab the sample builder piece, bring that over here. Make this like 6. Build that there, build that, remove that there. Okay. So here we start entering, say, the sewer kind of or dungeon area here. And we can either go left or we can go straight, which is pretty straightforward. There's 2 options. The correct way is going to be to continue going in the straight direction. If we go left here, there's going to be like a treasure, is what I've done. And so if we think about this in terms of what I was describing for like Final Fantasy IV, where Final Fantasy IV would often have like spots where it's like, oh, I want to grab the treasure chests, but you don't always see them as you're walking around. This would be an example of this. So here, if we don't go left and we continue going up, as we move over to here, we would see a treasure chest at the end of this dead end. The difference is that I feel like in Final Fantasy IV, when we've been playing it, to get to that other area, I've been counting and it's like maybe like 8 milliseconds out of the way. But at this stage, to go get this treasure chest, now that we've stepped up to one side, I feel like it's more. So 1 millisecond, or okay. We see it here, we turn around. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5. Okay, so maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm over exaggerating and the isometricness of it is like messing with me. But to move back and grab this treasure chest isn't actually that far out of the way.
Can also make your characters go faster.
We can't. I also established that a moment ago. I guess you weren't.
I'm in my own little bubble over here.
That's fair. Then I will say that, yeah, if we play with the speed of the character, we can make it go faster, but the world gets a little weird in the snapping that it does. You can see the world gets very jagged as we move here at like even a speed of 10. And that's because we have base speed 8 because it matches, like it snaps pixel by pixel basically. 8 units in Unity. So this is saying move 8 units every movement tick. 8 units is essentially 1 pixel. And so when we move, we're moving 1 pixel. Well, it's isometric, so 1 pixel up and to the left or 1 pixel up and to the right, or etc. for all 4 directions. But it's a fixed amount, so the pixels look pretty clean. But as soon as we have this movement speed off from that factor of, even if we go to 16, I still feel like it looks a little bit like jaggedy after so many steps.
Yeah.
It looks a little jerky. And 8,
very zoomy.
Yeah. So like I think 8 is where we have to live. So like this sumo factor and this movement speed is what I have to level design around, I think.
Okay. That's not bad.
No, and I think 5 milliseconds to backtrack again, assuming that we spawn in here. Let's add a treasure object too. Let's see if we can figure out how to do that. So let's make a new shape. Let's make a...
I wonder if I can make their eyes. Or maybe I'll fix the lighting a bit.
How do we make something that's supposed to look like a treasure chest? Or a pickup? Oh, arch is a cool shape.
His head's too round. Yeah.
I think like that, and then build, and then is there a way to take this prism and do something with its vertex colors? Ooh, what can we do with this? Oh, cool. So we can use some different colors here to kind of create some different effects. So we can apply this yellow to represent a treasure item, so that at least there's something less abstract when I'm trying to describe this. So that yellow item, which should appear pretty quickly if we were to spawn in here, let's say, and for the sake of making this look a little cleaner, let's also do that. Go back to a cube. 20 by 80. The pivot's in the wrong spot. 40. That looks better. Okay. Now there's not just going to be void next to the character. Okay. So yeah, we start here. We're walking forward. We go this way. We see a treasure. Okay, well, we want to backtrack for that. So we step back this way, walk around here, grab that item, pick it up, walk back. So, like, it's a detour, but it's not too bad. I mean, that's the best we're going to be able to hope for, I think, out of, like, gameplay. Until we add, like, more puzzle mechanics and stuff. But, at its core, most of the, like, old school Final Fantasy kind of JRPG games, when you're exploring dungeons like this, it's mostly about, like, what you can and can't see. And, like, I'm taking steps forward and I'm making a decision to step forward until I gain new information. And as soon as I gain that new information, I go, oh, there's something I want. And then I redirect and I go deal with that. And then once I'm done dealing with that, then I backtrack and go the way that I need to go. Now, in this scenario, if we grab this treasure, we're actually going to see most of what's coming up next, which I don't love. Because now I know, okay, well, this way leads forward, and now as I'm walking back for the next, like, okay, from, let's count, approximately 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10. For the next 10-ish seconds, I'm going to know that I'm just going to be walking down a hallway, essentially. So that's, like, I think that a lot of this level design is going to be about, like, really about player experience gathering. Like, they're going to start here, they step forward into this area, they see an item, they go grab that item. Because we're taking them over there to grab that item, we don't want to have the game progress in this general area, because if we progress in this general area, we're going to give away too much information, and the player is going to know where to go, and there's not going to be any surprise for X amount of time. Okay, that seems pretty clear cut. So if that's the case, building off of that, let's play with...
Oh, he has a friend. Oh, that's a blurry mess.
Let's change the vertex color of this to be this green color, because this is now going to be sewer. Let's grab this. We're going to have the map go this way instead. Okay, and then 40, nope, wrong way. 40 by 3. Okay, hit build on that, and then get this out of the way. So now I want to have a bit of like a sewer water area. So this is now no longer a drop, but instead is like the underneath of a sewer. Okay, if that's the case, I think we want this to actually extend a bit more. This is annoying because the way that I built this, it's like snapping in a way that I don't like. It still looks correct. Okay, let's try that. And then we can build an area that goes over this. So we'll do something that is 1 high. And I don't know if I want a floor piece. We built this like flat floor piece, but if I'm going to have areas that sit underneath the floor like this to kind of create this like idea of like a sewer passageway, I think I might want to just get rid of this top one and just have everything be 1 meter by 1 meter, but okay, building a bridge. Let's do 2. I think we need everything to be about 4 wide. And then how wide across is this sewer area? Well, one of these is 10, so let's say 10. And build. Okay, and then let's just grab this whole piece here, duplicate, bring over to here. And then raise this up. For now, I don't think this is what I want to be doing, but I don't have a better plan. Okay. Can I vertex color planes? Can I give like the top of this? This isn't quite the same color, is it? That's a shame. All right, click on planes. If I click on just the top of this, can I make this like a darker gray? I can. Helpful. And that is useful because it allows us to better see a distinction between the floors and the walls, or sorry, the ceiling and the walls. And then ideally I wouldn't mind even doing a slightly different color for these pieces too. It should make things a lot more readable. Interesting. This one doesn't want to tint. I think there may have been 2 pieces overlapping. Okay. Cool. Let's give that a try and see how that's feeling. What can we see dimensionally from here? Oh, interesting. Oh, right. We don't have any collision to prevent us from walking off edges. Hadn't thought about that. So we will need to set up invisible walls. Okay, but from here, we can see over to here. So that's another really neat opportunity to add something of value on that side. So if we were to grab this prism, which we're using to represent like items of value or treasures, we were to put one over there, now it kind of creates this really interesting, like, oh, there's something I want on that side. So then I want to backtrack here and head into this area. Come into here, grab this, come down through here, head up and along, and there's a split. I don't know, again, I don't think I want this split over here. I might change that. And then you come across this bridge area and then come down here. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Can we modify something that already exists? We can't. This is read-only. Okay, so we can't rebuild a piece once it's built. So we have to keep using this cube thing. Too high. So this is the problem with tinting stuff before we kind of have everything laid out, I guess. And it's a constant thing that I have to be doing. And I think I just want to block off the rest of this area. I'm not sure how much I'm going to need to do, though. Let's say 20. And then let's just do the whole length of it. Build, Vertex Color. Yeah, you see so much information beyond the bounds of like where the playable character is. Okay, and then heading up this way, heading over here. At this point, it's kind of just letting inspiration come to me in some regards and just see like what makes sense. I do kind of wish that, and maybe it's something you can do, I just don't know how, but I kind of wish that I had more control over like manipulating existing cubes created with the fact that this is only read-only feels sad to me. But I wish I could manipulate the size of these cubes that I'm duplicating more easily with ProBuilder. Still pretty powerful though. Okay. 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 I don't think it's like award winning, but it's starting to feel like something. Um, do the thing, walk down, come across here, go this way, come down here, grab this. Okay. I need to select object, not face. Let's extend the play space. Okay, and then grab the buildy cube and let's make it go. Can we fit this somewhere? That kind of works. Keep wanting to undo the like edits, but it doesn't work that way. Okay. So now we come along here, into here. Can't get over to that bridge from this side, so we head down, grab this item, head back over this way. Eventually make our way through another labyrinthian area, before eventually heading to this, which I'm now envisioning is like the exit to the space. The next thing worth exploring is part of the reason I went to 3D instead of 2D was so that we could have more elevation changes. And like we have a little bit of that in here, but not something that the player is like using as a play space essentially. So then there's a question of, can we do stuff with that? If we go grab this and make this a 4x4 space, and then maybe just build that. Can we then grab its vertexes? Is there any kind of merge? Not that I'm seeing. But we can do that. Interesting. Okay. Grab this object. Raise it up a level. Then move it in 2 away from the walls. And then do the same thing over here. This is something I learned from doing the tile mapping, was that you usually want to be 2 away from the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 on the X. Nope, 5 on the Z. So 9 total. And then 11 that way. Select the roofs. Let's get these roofs colored correctly. I'm curious to see what effect this has. All right, and then last but not least, let's make a corridor. Oh, I guess this is the problem with this elevation change, is now technically you can get on this upper area, which is not my intent. Okay, let's try that. Bring this over here. Bring it back down to the floor level. This is where things are starting to fall a little bit apart for me, is I'm not sure how this is starting to come together with these wall pieces. Having the second elevation is gonna throw a wrench in things quite a bit, because yeah, now we can't see ourselves, so 2 isn't actually enough distance here. We probably need to move this a little further away, and this ramp isn't very easy to see either. We can walk up it though, which is cool. Does not work very well. Interesting. Okay, so that's a different problem set that I haven't really been playing with. Is the character staying fixed? As we move up and down... Interesting. Very interesting. Super jittery. Okay. Huh. That's cool. So this is where I don't know if there's like a lot of great content. I don't know if there's been great content for a little bit now. How long have we been streaming for?
Long enough for me to start fella.
I see that.
I'm excited for her hair. Whoosh.
About an hour and a half, it looks like. Yeah, at this point, I feel like we've kind of solved the basic, like, how to use Pro Builder, and I'm kind of starting to just do level design. There is some, like, questions about, like, how we do, like, elevation aesthetically and functionally. There's going to be some problems on the programming side for how we handle ramps, it looks like. We snap perfectly on the XY plane, but I think the snapping is causing issues when we try and go vertically, so we might need, like, a different set of snapping values when we go up and down. I think it's doable. It's just going to require more code. Yeah, and so then you've got a base version of a character. So then did you make that base version and then are you just like duplicating that base version and altering it to make a Fala character?
Yep.
Fala is one of the other. Ward and Fala are kind of the two main ones that we have at this point. I don't think we have Yuki or Dracon yet.
No, I have not started them at all.
Yeah. But they should, in some regards, be easier with these new this new modeling technique.
That's the plan.
To create them. Okay, so at this stage, oh, this is kind of cool. Is this an overhang? Oh, see, this is fun. I feel like I should be doing more of this. I think we're just in play mode now. I think it's just a matter of playing with Pro Builder, creating interesting areas. Like, Trixie, if you take a look at this.
Oh. Oh, cool.
Just like, this is something that I didn't intend for, but just as I was shifting the second elevation, we kind of created this, like, lower area.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of cool. Actually, I want to try something. What if we tried to actually... This is no longer trying to make something that's like perfectly well level designed. I'm just curious if I can... If we were to grab the player's spawn point and drag that over to here. Oh, that's pretty cool. That feels super Final Fantasy IV to me. Trixie.
You made a secret! You did it!
That's actually super neat.
So why don't you have a face?
Okay. I mean, having that type of thing does encourage, like, pushing up against every wall as, like, the you can as, like, a gameplay mechanic.
Subdivisions don't actually divide it?
It depends on some of the Vertex stuff. Okay. So with some careful positioning, we can create like areas that are essentially tunnels that are really hard to see, which is cool. In terms of the actual elevation with ramps, though, I'm still not sure. Well, I guess first off, I think we need to be 3 away, it looks like, which is kind of interesting, in order to not block the character. We need to return the spawn point to the other side. Just cut out the walking part. Probably don't need picture-in-picture anymore. Yeah, so this creates area that you can see. The other option is instead of bringing it back 3, we could just make the step up more gradual. Does that create an effect more like what we're looking for?
Oh.
Somewhat. That might be closer. Yeah, I like that aesthetically a little bit more. Got some disconnected geometry.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Everything looks so clean. Got 2 vertices. Did that fix it?
It looks like it did, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's working out really well. It's just super simple. I just used the same format and threw some clothes on her. She's already halfway there.
Okay, so this layout with a ramp elevation is looking better. How does it feel up against the edge? Interesting, yeah. You never lose sight of the character. You can always see some part of your character. So that's good. Oh, we're also playing with fixed center, which I hadn't considered either. One thing that could help a little bit, which I should have remembered, is one way to not have more zoom out and not manipulate the character's speed, but still manipulate how much the character can see at any given moment, is to change up the camera. So if we go into 3D character controller, player controller, container, player container, and inside of the camera, the virtual camera, instead of frame transposer, let's do this live. I don't remember what all the settings are, so let's run it and then see how we can manipulate this. But if we go into here, and then for the virtual camera, yeah, right now the dot is like centered on the character. So if we move around, we can see that the camera's fixed on the character. But if we change that so that there is, say, even a 0.5 dead zone, now the camera doesn't move until the character reaches the edges of that area. Interesting. So that's the change we need to make over here. If we come into here and we change this to have a dead zone of 0.5 and a dead zone of 0.5 on the X and Y. Then when we spawn in, let's actually put our spawn point back at the start, because I'm curious how this changes the level design that we've been working on. We spawn in here. I think the camera should still be center aligned to start. It is not. It is bottom left align. Okay.
Bigger boot. Bigger. Oh no. Bigger boot.
How do I control? Where the camera spawns in. That's why. We start center left. There's a way with code that we can fix this. But for the sake of testing, what would it look like if we had proper code and we could change, if we use tracking offset, I think? So let's bring the character down. And let's assume that we start like here, maybe? Okay. So assuming we start looking here, which even this is pretty far out, honestly. But assuming that we start here with the, well, we can also just adjust it a little bit. Okay, so say even if the camera started here, more centered, right? Like if we click on, yeah, it's not centered, but at least it's more on the right-hand side of the camera. That's not what I wanted to do. Shoot. That's fine. Okay, even if we say we start here, let's click off the camera. When we step forward, we don't see any information about which hallway is the correct hallway. We see this. Ah, now we don't get to see this until we're much further up. But in terms of how much information we see beyond here, we don't have to worry about showing nearly as much. So we can have the level kind of extend beyond here into this section without showing too much information. Okay. So yeah, changing where the camera tracks the player is one way that we can hide information from the player while not affecting the zoom. I had forgotten about this trick. The characters stepping up is more noticeable when the camera isn't perfectly tracking them. Yeah. Okay. Let's play with that a little bit. So if we grab this and move this back, and then if we click on this and grab its vertices, which I guess this is a way we can manipulate the size of these things without changing their density. But if we just make the ramp longer, now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What if it's a 10 long ramp? How does that change things? Still pretty bobby.
A little less bobby, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it's not smooth by any means. So I think there is something to do with the characters, like Something to do with the character snapping that's like creating this kind of weird effect. Interesting. That's not going to help. Set trigger. Oh, that's neat. Set trigger turns it into a trigger volume instead of an object. Interesting. So we can change the vertexes. If we go here and change vertices on these. This size changes. Okay, that's the trick that I've been missing. If I go into vertex mode, that's how I can extend and manipulate these things more easily without having to use the builder constantly. So if we disable this, and we disable this, we go in here, grab these, we can pull that in to make a corridor. Then we can turn this one back on. This is inside of the one below. Is there an easy way to just... There's grow selection. Yeah, but that goes up and grabs the one above. Is there like a grab circle? No, not that I'm seeing. Okay. Because it'd be great if I could just grab a... Well, I guess that's plain, isn't it? If we go under here, click here, grab that. That's what I'm looking to do. Okay. And then that's the same thing with the side, right? Alright. Figured it out. Now we're playing with fire.
Same. She has a bob. Look at her beautiful bob.
Are you going to be giving a ponytail?
I'm going to be turning off mirror. I'm just applying all my transmissions. She's now going full asymmetrical. As the first time I'm going to attempt proper hair.
Okay. Are you going to save?
Yes, I am definitely going to save. Let me render it out and show you guys though.
Oh,
She
let me
just has
switch
a
over
haircut.
to your big screen.
I love her boots. Her boots are amazing.
Did they work out pretty close?
They worked out on point. I feel like it's got a little lost here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that's a lighting fix I've messed with. But other than that, I'm really happy with their body shapes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. It's a good amount of progress from like building what? You built the base model and then you built that one from the base model?
It took me about like, what, a week or so worth of work of doing those 24 models from ground up.
Yep.
Mind you, I was relearning my hotkeys.
Yeah, it'd been a little bit since you had touched Blender, so there's a bit of a gap there.
Bit of a gap, but a few tutorials and some cursing later, I got it all fixed out. And now I was able to do the one within the hour and on to my next model. This is the whole point of using 3D models to sprites, though, so quicken the workflow. Though, we still have to figure out rigging and animation, but one step at a time. Not excited for that. It's gonna be very difficult.
I fell into the water. The sewer water. Okay. I want to take a quick look at the characters. Movement script and see if we can figure out what might be causing the jitter. I'm gonna guess it's because we're snapping on the Y. Movement, 3D isometric player mover. We're actually not doing anything except moving in a direction on this one. So it's not the movement, it's the actual sprite itself. So this player sprite is what actually controls updating the player sprite to match the movement. They're not the same object. Yeah, we are rounding the Y by the PPU, which is 8 in this circumstance. Yeah, everything's set to 8. So then the question is that what we should be doing? I imagine if we don't round, we're going to have problems, but let's see what happens if we just remove the rounding. That actually looks fine. We just don't round on the Y. Oh, it's not fine. The character gets a bit swimmy if we're not rounding it, because the character is no longer snapping to the grid. Essentially, it's pixel grid. So if we zoom in really close here, we can see that his eyes shrink and grow is like the most noticeable detail here. That's because he's no longer snapped on the grid. Okay. Interesting. So if we go up out of elevations, Oh, his eyes break here anyways.
Not my eyes.
And we saved, yeah, so we turned snapping back on. So even with snapping on, the character is doing something weird when changing Y elevation. So if we take a look at the actual sprite, interesting. This is essentially changing the snapping value. Kind of see how he distorts slightly as we manipulate these different values. Like here he's like losing pixels inside himself. There he loses an eye. Like 8 is normally the one that works pretty well for when he's walking around the world. Yeah, at 8 when he's on a normal plane. Oh, technically the Y value is changing here. Oh, that's because we have some rotations happening. Interesting. In order to have the character face the camera. I wonder if that's part of the issue. There's a bunch of math here, which I don't want to solve on stream, but long story short is, yeah, we are snapping the character as we walk up the ramp, and that snap is what's causing the weird jitteriness. But if we turn off the snapping, it gets smooth, but then the character gets all crunchy and weird. Which, I mean, he's already getting crunchy and weird, so maybe at the very least we should just turn snapping off. I don't think it's the end solution, though. I think it's something more advanced than that. I guess the problem with turning snapping off is that when we're walking on the normal, like, 0 position in the world, then he can get a little squished even here in the world. Yeah. Now his eyes are super messed up. So, like, he looks smoother when going up and down ramps, but he can be more distorted while normally walking. Yeah, so we want snapping on. That's a shame. That's fine. So elevation is still a problem, which is part of the thing we're trying to solve by going 3D, but I'm sure it's more solvable. I'm just gonna have to spend some time on it. Let's zoom back out.
It's polygon heck.
That's weird. We could do something where we teleport too. We could have like ladders, quote unquote, and he just walks up to like the edge of, like, you see like the top of a ladder here, and he steps up to it, and then we do like either an animation or like a fade to black, fade up, and he's just on the top area. It's a
That's a classic move.
Yeah, it's a sad hack, but it could work. Honestly, he looks kind of broken in general. I think I'm just imagining things now. Okay, cool. Um, what does mirror object do? Oh, that's actually super handy too.
How do you not exist?
Okay, so it might just be that I need to play with some of these things more. Subdivide object. Oh, neat. You can add more vertices to something. Just curious how this looks in pixel with our low res. Interesting. It looks interesting. Okay. Other thing I wouldn't mind trying is if we go into pipe. Where is our build piece? Right here. Drag this over here.
I think I turned into a Karen. She's got the side thing going on.
Well,
But
you
she's
just
so
gotta-
cute at the same time. I'm going to do the ponytail next. She's rendered out fine. Like, I don't need to worry about polygons.
It doesn't matter what she actually looks like here.
No.
It's yeah, okay.
Which I'm very thankful for, because the math behind making low poly is crazy.
Yeah, the question would be, it doesn't rig okay? Like, as long as your poly, like, even if it's
Fair.
a little weird, you need to still be concerned about it, like, working correctly.
Yeah, she'll be a test. She'll be a test subject. And if that doesn't work, well, I'll just decimate it.
That's fair. That is fair.
Are you building a little bridge?
No, I was thinking if I could build some pipes.
That's pretty pipey.
Yeah, I mean, it's of the pipe shape, essentially. Because we do want to have in our sewer system a lot of, like, pipes in the walls.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious what kind of effect it would have if we had these pipe objects.
Oh, you got snapping on.
I do have snapping on. That's how most of this has been working. I just need to change the pivot point, which I'm not sure if I can do that on this, like, test preview build thing. But if I actually build it and then come in here, I can click on this and set pivot, and then now it snaps to that side.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Just copy and paste that across the entire wall there.
Yeah, and then the other thing I just realized recently is that we can come into here and grab all of these, and then this is how we can extend. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I wish I had have realized that a lot sooner.
Hey, better late than never.
Yeah. And then if I want to, I can also change, like, the snapping as well on some of these parts to give me more freedom. And now I can kind of start to build in some pipes around here and see if those feel okay.
That's funky. How do you do corner pieces?
That
that
I
going too
don't
far?
know. That might be something that we'll still have to rely on you to do
I
in
can
the
do that.
in
I
the
can
en-
do elbow pipes.
in the environment stage.
Okay.
Why can I not select the spawn point? There we go. Oh, interesting. I can choose vertex coloring. I didn't realize I was actually setting vertex color per those vertices. So I need to come in here and choose all of these and set all of these to orange.
The ponytail has begun.
I guess by stretching it the way I did, though, now there's like vertices in the middle. It's not really what we want.
She looks like an Athenian warrior.
Best filmmaker ever popped in to say hello.
Hey, filmmaker.
Thanks for saying hi. Thanks to everyone popping in and out today. There's been a lot of people kind of poking in, seeing what's going on. Appreciate everyone saying hello.
We love the
Or
support.
just stopping by.
Oh my gosh. What is even happening here?
I know that this isn't exactly the most interesting content, but
You do have a lot of World of Warcraft Classic coming up.
yeah, well, that I think is less interesting, but we will see.
I mean, you're excited.
I am excited, yes.
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Can I add more vertices? I guess I would split this thing. Is that how I do this? That's not quite what I'm looking for. That looks like it did what I wanted, even though I maybe didn't do it exactly right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's not what I wanted, but let's see what happens if we hit run and see what that looks like. See, this is my concern. You can see if we look really closely, some of these pipe pixels are disappearing and reappearing. So I fear... Oh, well, we walked off the
she
world.
got so thin. Oh, how do I split?
If we walk... If we create objects that are weirdly shaped, it looks like everything breaks. This is going to be like the next challenge of doing things in 3D. It could just be that this object is too thin, but I don't think it is. It's not too bad though. The pixels disappearing and reappearing here isn't too bad. It's more an issue here with this one that's like extremely like bendy. It just means any detail work we do in terms of models is probably going to need to be really straight.
Really straight edges?
Well, so you see how this one's all wavy?
Uh-huh.
It's like you can see pixels appearing and disappearing as I move near it.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see. Well, now it's not doing it, but oh, there.
If you're staring at it, if you're watching your character, it's not going to be that bad. We do know the old systems did have that wobble.
Yeah, like you can see a little bit of pixel flickering in
Yeah.
some of the older games, but I would like to have it be as precise as possible. And this one here, like, it's weird in that yeah. But this one here, I don't see any kind of like pixel shifting except for at the very edge at where it falls off.
Fair.
So I think it just might be that we have to keep our details pretty straight. We can't do crazy angles because yeah, look at what this thing looks like, right?
Huh.
It doesn't really connect.
Just leave you up there for a minute. Oh, I don't know how to do that. There's a really neat thing in Unity so I can do exactly what I'm thinking of, but I don't know how to work it yet.
It might also just be that the pipe is a bad thing to be working with in that it has a lot of extra geometry to it, and we could probably at this level just get away with a cube that's like pretty small. I don't know if we're gonna really gain that much from going with a pipe. So if we just do this instead, yeah, that effectively tells the same story. The next question is, can we do them overhead? And does that look cool? Now we're getting to a bit of environment modeling instead of like level design, but I'm curious on some of these things. What does that look like in isometric view? Trixie?
Yep.
I think cubes are just
that's
better.
Funky.
Yeah, I think cubes are just better.
Those are squares?
Those are just really long rectangles, basically, yeah.
They look perfect.
Yeah, I think that trying to do a pipe model is just creating extra room for
Air.
pixel jitteriness. This looks pretty stable for the most part. Yeah. And
I like the wedge of cheese.
the what?
The wedge of cheese.
That's the treasure chest.
He's a mousy.
But I never thought about that. You're right. It is
You're a
cheese
little
at the end
mouse
of the
in a
case.
cage
Yeah.
right now.
Yep. But doing this type of like, we want to have the sewer full of pipes, but having like different corridor areas with these kind of like little sets going across look pretty good. And then it also really highlights the fact that we have lighting.
Yeah.
Like you can actually see
Love
the
the
like
shadowing.
the shadow on the sprite here too. Like
That's really cool.
where did that preview go? Put it in the wall. What happens if we make it thicker? What is the limit before this looks bad? So let's go 0.2. Build, and then vertex color this, and then let's try that size. How does that look? Also fine. Kind of wish there was a bit more of a gap between them. It looks like there's a single pixel running the length of them, which is interesting that that's mathematically how that worked out. But let's just give them a little bit more room. So try that. I think that's evenly spaced. Does that create a little bit more gap for you to see the character sprite as it walks under? It does. That's pretty cool. Oh, there is a bit of... Oh, the whole bottom of this pipe appears and disappears as we move sometimes. Just right here. Not all the time. There. Huh. But that wasn't happening on these smaller ones. It's going to be these detail props that are going to be tricky, I think. Static like walls and environments that are pretty square, I think we're going to have not a whole lot of problems creating like a pixelized look. It's when we start getting weird shapes or smaller shapes that we start to run into some rounding issues with Unity, I think.
That's when the fear begins.
I mean, again, it's not that big of a deal. If you're focused on your character, you're probably not going to see when this thing down here snaps away. It does draw the eye a little bit though, but I feel like I'm focusing on it really hard, and only when I'm really paying attention to it do I see it like disappear. The vignette's way less pronounced on this version as well compared to our other environmental test model. I think it's just because everything's a lot lighter.
Do you like that?
No, I kind of like how dark the other one felt. Okay, so I think these pixels are fine. It's not consistent. It's there. It's not consistent. Happens. It's not the end of the world. It's not something I'm going to obsess over. Not at this stage. It's only on this one too, so it's also possible that if we just like shift it, then it won't happen.
Well.
Although if we have to do that for every object in the world, that's going to become a pain. It honestly could be that it was off, because I'm currently snapping to 0.1 meters. It could be that that was just a weird amount. Because I don't know if the meters that we're snapping by are like really pixel meters. Like, because we're snapping the character every 8 units. I don't know. There's probably some math we could do to make sure that our geometry that we're placing the world is never in a spot that like is going to be in between, allowing the pixels to shift back and forth like we were seeing on that pipe. But okay. Yeah, and if we could get like a bunch of these pipe pieces to like intertwine, and let's see if we can do that. Let's do like this. And then how do I get snapping on the rotation to work, I wonder? We can just do that for now. But it does look like it should have snapping because there is an angle for 45-degree angle.
All right. I'm going to render her out. Are we ready?
Sure. You think this is the final version?
No, first time I'm rendering here. I wanted to make sure everybody's with me. We're either going to jump for joy or cry. Oh, I didn't also see where the camera is for her ISO, so this might be interesting.
Oh, it's not quite aligned.
Did her hair merge together?
That's a cry.
Yeah. I think it's more lighting. It's always lighting.
Are you eating?
Or there's original. Because I like them. They're delicious.
Don't eat on stream.
I'm sorry, I got snacky. I like sweets.
Okay.
Apologies.
And then we can grab this piece and extend it over to here. And then we can grab this one. And then grab its pieces and extend it over to here. And then just for the fun of it, I think this might break, but I want to try it anyways. Curious if we try and bring it down. Yeah, lots of pixel distortion on that ramp. Or not a lot, but I saw a little bit of flickering right off. Yeah, no, it's shifting. It doesn't know how to deal with that angle very well. Okay, so we can't do that. What if we brought it in to be a lot closer? 0.1.
I guess this is one of the benefits of having outlines on your character, because that could easily be defined. But it is not. That could just be a touch-up thing.
Can you go into lighting mode here to see what it looks like?
Yeah. is the lighting on the side? Whoa.
Interesting.
That one gives a lot more shadow when it's all above. When in doubt, play with the lights. Every time.
Just trying to create more dimension with light.
Yeah, because it's just a shadow of her hair. There you go. She just like she's getting cut off.
Just getting cut off?
Yeah.
I don't think she is. I think she's just a little square.
Huh.
Oh, the head pony like piece is a little weird, I guess. You're
Yeah,
right.
also her skull looked like shit.
Oh, go to camera mode. See what your camera sees. Because it's possible your camera is cutting her off. It's like, yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. My bad.
It's okay. Don't want to play with that too much because that's ISO. I think I have to shrink her.
Well, no, because the pixel density matters here.
So...
You may have made her too big.
Her hair is too big.
Either that or zoom out. Well, yeah,
No,
you're gonna
no.
run into some problems now.
Right, so I'm gonna have to go back into...
I'm not sure what is the correct approach on this, because we've set that camera up to work to get the pixel density on Ward correct. Can we just make the view of the camera wider so it sees more? The frustrum, I think it's called.
The frustrum?
The camera's frustrum. I'm curious if we add some point lights to this, how this looks. I don't think I want to use those point lights though. I want to make new ones.
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't know a lot about camera. I just set it and forget it.
Yeah, there's a way to change how much of a view it has. Like,
I am concerned because, like, if I mess with those numbers, it's gonna break isometrics.
yeah, I would say first. I would 100% say first.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Remember that time when you told me to save earlier? I
Did you-
forgot to. That's
Oh,
my
no.
first save. It's been like an hour and a bit of work.
We've been streaming for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna add a bit of lighting in here and see how that looks. Yeah, that's some lights.
I think I'm just gonna snip this and I'm gonna try and put her hair in the confines. That way I can see what I'm doing.
Intensity's too high, I think.
It is very intense right now, you're right.
I'm talking about the lighting.
I'm also very intense right now. Her hair was so perfect. I had to cut like from here.
I realized I switched to you a while ago and I forgot to go back into picture-in-picture mode. We've been adding lots of pipes.
Pipes are good.
Trying to do some pipe stuff. I'm not sure when I switched off. I think I was still doing pipe stuff, so I don't think this is that much missed, but... speaking of pipes, there was one other thing I wanted to try.
More pipes.
More pipes. If we go back to the actual pipe model, one thing that I think might be useful... Yeah, I made that way too big. Where is the preview cube? There it is. Nope, that's not it. This one. Don't know what height segments are. That might be how many subdivisions it has. Because I guess normally it's facing upwards. Oh, it was running when I did that. That's fine. That looks okay. What if we colored that? It's kind of cool.
Okay, render 2. Oh yeah, her hair is still cut off.
If we had torches, how high on the wall would they be, I wonder?
Oh, that looks so good though. I don't want to mess it up. That looks like a video game over there.
Yeah, it's getting there. Visual interest helps a lot, honestly. Like, it's
100%.
pretty plain, but if you were to, like, again, you wouldn't spend a lot of time in here. I think you'd probably step forward, step up to here, see the treasure chest, backtrack down.
Still has to be interesting.
For sure, but I think that, like, the, adding a little bit of this piping and, like, decoration actually goes a long way at making the environment feel less boxy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty boxy. Yeah, I don't like what I did to this one over here, though. Okay. I really like seeing the character walk between the pipes here. I think that that's a really interesting little bit of visual interest.
Yeah, it's really cool. Makes you feel like you're in very tight corridors, and then you're in a sewer.
Yeah, I think also, like, again, talking about visual interest, we have done water animations before in previous, like, versions of the dungeon. Like, getting, like, a kind of sewer water flow kind of happening down here, I would think would having motion would really help a lot here with making it feel more like an environment. But again, I think, like, all in, maybe this section would take 30 seconds to a minute to traverse. There is a question of, like, what are we doing with monsters? Like, I don't want random encounters. I definitely want to have, like, monsters that are in your path and you have to, like, move past and dodge. I'm not sure how that works with, like, such tight corridors like this. There's not a lot of movement space here to, like, move past something.
Okay, I shrank her because we do have a parameter to live in.
Okay.
She's a lady. She could be a little smaller.
Well, we have characters who need to be taller, though, so we will have to figure it out at some point.
But Fala,
Yeah, that's fine.
she's so pretty.
I would make sure that she's still the same height as Ward, though.
She's in the same box, so like her hair is 2 pixels taller than Ward.
Okay.
Plus, Ward's not officially done yet. I like Fala, so I started with her.
That's fair. That's fair.
Plus, she's also more complicated because of the hair, so I thought I'd do the more complicated thing first, and everything else seems easier. Though
Yeah.
we're not even going to talk about Dracon yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Dracon is going to be a little bit more interesting. Although I have a base model that we could use as like a reference point for her profile, but regardless, cool. I think this might be a good point to call it, though.
I'm okay with that.
We've been streaming for 2.5 hours. I think we got a lot done.
I'm very proud of us.
Yeah, I think the Pro Builder tool is the right call here. I get a little lost sometimes trying to make like everything perfect, but I think this is more than good enough to do some level designs. We can worry about like creating proper art with like proper textures and stuff at a later point.
It's nice because I can screenshot that actually and just use that as a template for my shapes as well.
I'm not sure, but I think there's a way that I can like fuse this all into one object and then give you that object too that you could like bring into Blender and then just like build over too. So I think there's ways of making this gray box work for us in the long term. Okay.
Look at us just discover all these neat tools.
Yeah. Again, I'd seen Pro Builder used professionally in my job, but like, and I dabbled with it a little bit, but like obviously not to any real extent because there was a lot of things I discovered just from playing with it in this session. Okay, cool. I still think discovering like the fact that we can have like hidden areas like this that you can like walk through tunnels really makes me happy to think that we can have like some cool Final Fantasy IV kind of hidden wall areas. It's kind of my jam.
I'm very happy you figured that out. That was a big deal.
Yeah, so okay, so I'm gonna continue kind of gray box levels here. We need to get monsters in and getting monster conflicts and figure out how we're gonna deal with monsters that are gonna be in the world roaming around, especially with such tight spaces. So that's probably one of the things to prototype. Once I have one complete level that I'm pretty happy with, I don't think that's this yet. I think there's a lot more on the other side that I would like to see kind of flushed out, and I'd like to play more with elevation and see what we can do with that, and ideally figure out how to fix the character kind of bobbing as he like goes up ramps, because
he's going to be bobbing anyway. We have to add that animation to the character as they walk.
Yeah.
So like he's just going to be extra bobby.
Yeah.
And to be fair, even when us live people walk upstairs, we bob.
For sure. It's fine. It's a polish thing.
It is break 3, okay.
Yeah, and then that's pretty cool that you managed to build a base model and then take that base model and build out like Fala as a pixel character.
Relatively easily too.
Yeah, pretty quick.
So I'm gonna pull her up next to Ward as a grand finale. There's like random black sprites that just show up. I would like to figure out how to get rid of the black background when it renders out and just get an like...
I don't know if you can get rid of the black background.
I don't know either, but I would like to. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, you could change it to a different color, like a bright magenta purple. That's easier to like get rid of.
Hi, Ward.
Okay, she didn't actually change that much. Okay.
No,
I do feel like
still in the same parameter.
Yeah, I do feel like they're a little too blocky still in comparison to the original.
Well, I mean, the original is a block too.
No, for sure. I mean, they're a little flatter in their colors.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll work on colorations and cleanup and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm going to learn how to texture. Texture will help.
Yeah, if you add a texture instead of just being a flat color, that'll help.
Because like the boots have metal sheen on them, and see with that, that's why there's so much color there versus this is just material.
Right. So if we add some texture to that, that'll help quite a bit. Yeah, and we could always do extra like coloration as a polish step at the end. Again, this is about getting proportion and perspective so that when we do animations, we can like get a lot of the kind of the pixel placements for free, and then we can always add more.
She's supposed to have blue eyes.
We can always add more kind of colors at a later point. That doesn't look
that doesn't
right.
look right at all.
Yep. That's better. Still not quite, though.
No, something's up with that, isn't it?
Yeah, you might have to bring over...
Bring me your... I don't know if you're on the right layer. Yes. Bring me your eyes. Oh.
No.
Venom eyes. They were like that. I know I had a shadow detail before.
Yeah, it looks like because the hairline is too high. If you were
Yeah,
to bring...
so I think I need to reverse where the hairline is, because right now this is all covered, and it should be reversed. Maybe if I just flip the render. I'll try that next stream, though. I can do like that.
Just doing that helps a lot.
I'm just moving that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like that too much. Yeah. Okay. But that'll just come with tweaking the model a little bit too, because we'll want to make sure that it's mostly tweaked.
Yeah.
Oh, just a little shadow like that on the shoulder helps a lot too.
Yeah, that's a little bit too dark of a shadow, but the implication is there. Like that.
Yeah. And even if that's the level of cleanup we have to do on every frame of the walk animations, like that's not the end of the world compared to drawing every frame from scratch.
Oh my goodness, no.
Okay. Cool.
I'm still like from this to that and that. I'm just so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's been some game dev, doing some blocking out of some dungeons, converting some 3D models into some 2D sprites. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us in this kind of chill game dev, figuring stuff out stream. More content to come. Keep an eye for more shorts if you're looking for something that's less rambly and a little bit more concise, hopefully. More progress updates. And yeah, I'm going to be streaming some WoW Classic with Wrath of the Lich King coming out this week. Don't know how much. I don't think I'm going to do the entire level to 80 as a stream, but I'm going to be popping in occasionally just to hang out and do some chill streams as I'm leveling up. But for now, this is going to be Tolhi